Yeah, we noticed you left out.
It's ready to fight.
I don't know if it's true, but I call it sailor coffee because it stands up.
That was my comment to Bill. They have real coffee.
Oh yeah, where's Bill? He said he's coming for his cup of coffee. Oh, he's hiding right here. Well, again, I don't have a formal agenda. I don't know that I ever will unless you guys tell me to get one. Because the idea is just to visit and get to know each other and ask questions and have a conversation amongst ourselves. This is, in my opinion, where it happens, right? Local government is I always would say, is the most authentic platform for participation and community, and it's where things happen, not so much, in my opinion, at the federal level or the state level, because we're not there. So we're here, we all live together, and we're working and driving and seeing the same things, and so, at least for the initial start, it really just was an opportunity to sit down. I think last time was real nice, just being able to chat with everybody, and we had a couple questions that I think I know, when Brian was here last time, we got some answers and tried to go back and work on some things and address some of the concerns. Obviously, can't address everything all the time. At least things we couldn't address, we tried to kick off the places where they're supposed to go. Like, I know FPL's been engaged on that power pole issue, and it's gonna take a while, it looks like, from emails I'm seeing. They're not really in a hurry to do anything, but we just keep marching along. So I didn't know if people had any thoughts or any conversation starters. Yes.
I wanted to start it off. I'm Elizabeth Blackford. I live in Palm Bay at Babcock and Malabar Road. And I just wanted to say, this feels better. Citizen engagement is important, and having a focus group or a gathering like this, more informal, feels like, yeah, maybe we can actually talk to these guys. And so thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. That's the only reason I don't do an agenda, because I don't want you to feel like it's structured and we have to hit topics. It's not about me or what I want to talk about. That's the reason it's like, to your point, just come. So thank you. Yeah, it's just about hanging out.
It's working.
Good. Well, this is round 2.
I might just say,
Good morning.
good morning, I'm a friend of Beth Blackford, and we're gonna be leaving early, much
Okay.
to my dismay. I'm gonna miss this.
Go to the county?
Yes, yes, to speak about citizen engagement that I wanna bring back to and discuss further with you and all of you, because the county has an actual program called Speak Up Brevard
Okay.
that is in their charter that mandates, one time a year, citizens, present, SEERS, which is, citizen, efficient and effective, citizen, help me out, Beth. SEER is,
Citizens efficiency and effectiveness recommendation.
yes, and doesn't that sound great? And the idea is that citizens learn how to identify the problem, present solutions, give these to the county commissioners, have a dialogue, just like you're doing, with a resolution that the city staff actually writes every submitter of the SEER, a personal, how we can go forward with this or something else. And it goes into a website that is archived, it's been handy since 2010. So it's a tremendous opportunity, and that's the only thing that would pull me away from this opportunity. To see here, with Palm Bay.
I like that. I know we're on the calendar for, I think in October, I think we're gonna meet you.
You talking to me? Yes. And
I need to bring my glasses.
I want
really
to thank
appreciate
you.
us too.
I want to thank you in your office for getting in touch with me and working that out. So I look forward to it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to see my phone if I pulled it up. This has all happened to me this year, that's why I'm resisting it with all my might. I'm not wearing my glasses, I just need to. No, not in my pocket. But I think it's October.
Yes,
Yeah, we're gonna
October.
walk and-
Yes, it's October 23rd.
Good, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. Thank you so much.
Yes, good
Yes,
morning.
hi, good morning, my name is Alberta Clinkscales, and I'm with the Community Revitalization Alliance. And I, work in the community in Northeast Palm Bay and South Melbourne. And we had a community meeting, this past Thursday, and to our surprise, council, staff had gone to council and talked about the Evans Center, without letting us know. And we were Community Revitalization and MEDCA, we're two organizations who were on that contract. And we were awarded the use of the Evans Center, so you know how surprised we were when we found out the staff was there, and we had been asking to present in front of council and made these decisions. And I'm at the community meeting, talking to the community because I received an email from Juliet saying there was a decision that they're gonna move forward with an RFA. And then we watched the meeting, and that wasn't true, because that was the day before. So I put that out at the community meeting, people were riled up, and we are planning to come to council on the 4th and make statements. And the thing is that, I have a packet for you.
Good.
Because, you know, it just threw us all off, because as you know, that Evans Center is a community hub for change and for development. And so we were surprised at that. And so, I did put a package together, Connie and I and MEDCA. We really met and really went through everything, and because we believe that just because the lead organization pulled out, our organizations are perfectly competent to complete the contract.
And you very well might be, and I think the whole point of the question is, to your point, the primary organization pulled out, they're the ones who put the contract in.
No. So how that started?
You were in partnership with it, but they were the
No.
financial backer.
That's not how it started, though. It started
Right, but
that
they-
we made the decision because one person had to be a lead, right?
Right.
One person had to. So in our group, we discussed it together, because we could have been the lead from the beginning, you know? So any one of us, and if you look at the lease, all 3 of us are signing it. It's 3 signatures that would be responsible on that contract. So I asked the attorney to see what laws, what ordinance, laws, I don't know, statements in our constitution or articles that would say that because the lead stepped out, that another organization could not step up to be the lead. We've been serving Northeast Palm Bay and South Melbourne since 2017. We were the first ones to use the Evans Center. We supported the Evans Center, and it's a community hub, and that's the way the people of that community want to keep it. So I'm hoping that we'll have an opportunity to do a presentation to the city, to council, because that is exactly what's being said in the community, and we have went through our programmings with the people, and that's what they want to see. So we'll have a chance
come
to
to council,
speak.
but, you know, part of the challenge.
I would like to
is
speak
always
to you first.
faced is when things change,
Mhm.
you know, then we need to address change, and we don't
Of
just
course.
repackage stuff and sell it. When we sold something to the council and the citizens, and say the city, not you, and we took the original application and the original partnerships, and then that changed, not because of something we did, because of something that happened. And in fairness, our decision was, hey, it needs to be brought back to the community and the council to make sure where's the alignment and where's it going, instead of just like, well, we'll just not tell anybody, and we'll just sweep, you know, rearrange it behind the scenes, and
That's
so.
not what we asked for.
I'm not saying that, and that's my perspective, is we wanna make sure everything's fully public and transparent. You're saying you could have stepped into the lead role, it's sort of what you're asking for, but we wanna bring it back to the public and say, where are we going, community, what is your guys' feeling, what's the strength of the partnerships? What, you know, where are we moving forward now that somebody has pulled out before it even began? And we thought that was the fairest thing to do.
No, yes, please.
Yes.
Could I, by that being in my community, and, I know before, you know, the history there with Mr. Evans. And it was a store, you know, so that people could go there, have somewhere to go and, you know, and buy goods and stuff like that. Then over the years, after Mr. Evans passed, you know, things changed. Owners took over, and it ended up being like a nuisance to the community. So the city shut it down years ago, and it stayed shut down probably about almost 10 years. Then they reopened it up back to Evans Center. They kept the name because that's what it was always,
Right.
Evans. And I would just like to ask, I know it's something about selling it and everything. Before y'all make a decision, is there any way the community can have an input in that, because we don't want a nuisance in our community?
Yeah, and I'd love to meet with you after to get more information.
And that's where we'll be meeting at, when we, on the 23rd, we'll be meeting up there at Evans Centers together.
I just want to say one more thing.
Yes.
You alluded to the fact that was trying to make some decision, outside of the sunshine, and that is not what we
No,
asked.
No,
No,
what I
we
said
had
was a
asked.
partner, no, what I said, I wanna clarify, what I said was a
Okay.
partnership change.
I know.
And so in my opinion, that means we need to talk about it again, instead of just
We
making
wanted to
the
do
city
that.
making a change.
We
And
asked
that-
to
and that's
speak
what-
in
and
front
that's
of
what-
council,
and that's
we
what we're
asked to
doing.
do a
Right,
presentation
but-
in front of council, but instead, Juliet and the group moved, while we were waiting for an answer to present in front of council, you all just moved forward to tell council that, oh, we can apply next time, but we had, since February, we have been gathering partnerships. Do you know the work that's been going on behind the scenes for 6 months?
Oh, I know, because we've been doing the
We've
same
been
work on this end.
putting the process together,
We
so I'm
were
just saying.
surprised and disappointed they pulled out, and I don't know why
Yeah,
they did.
but their board, that's their decision,
Right,
and so.
exactly, now we're all trying to pick up the pieces.
Yes,
We
please.
need to do it together.
But I really thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation. I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to cause a problem.
You're not, you're
I'm just
passionate,
saying.
you're concerned, it's okay, it's all fine, it's okay.
I'm just saying, my goodness, we have all this support now we go back and say, okay, that doesn't matter.
So you brought me stuff, so let's talk after, so I can
Okay.
understand better, and then,
Thank you.
yeah, I appreciate you being here to talk about it. Good morning, sir, yes.
Good morning. Two things. First of all, the history of the Evans Center.
Yes,
When the city bought that, there was a lot of money spent to build that building and provide services to the community. And it's not to just that community. If you go down there and you look at the bricks, you'll find my family's name and a lot of other prominent names around Palm Bay that put money into the Evans Center to make it work. But it's a valuable asset. So I'd just say that. My second question has to do, is there any plans on forming a committee to do a code review for outdated and, because there's a lot of Second Amendment language in the code that's conflict with state law.
yeah, so state law is gonna trump wherever the conflicts are. We've got a lot of priorities right now. I would really not like to waste a bunch of time doing code scrubs. It needs to get done, I don't disagree. But on the priority scale, it's the most de minimis thing, because to your point, I read your email the other day, which is well worded. If you get pulled over and someone on your bike or e-bike and someone writes you a ticket, which hopefully we're not, because police are aware of those current regs, at the end of the day, the state law is gonna trump anything that we say. So I would rather not get pushed into that corner, because we're just gonna take time away for some really more valuable things to be worried about at the moment. But yeah, it's important to go through periodically, scrub the codes, take outdated things, make sure, if we had a true, compliance issue, civil rights issue, Second Amendment issue, things in our code that were really serious, that were putting the community at risk or liability or unfair. But someone getting a ticket on a bike, or, I know I've seen codes literally where, this is a great story, it's a true story. So I was a young man, when I was just getting interested in government, and I used to be a track runner, and I got invited to do a bed race. I was just telling the story the other day, and you get 4 guys, and you push a bed down Main Street, and you've never seen this, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. And we had a lot of fun, and then after I said, what's this whole thing about the bed race? And one of the founders was city council members back in '80, it was a long time ago, I don't remember the year out loud. And he says, well, it's because we make fun of ourselves. I go, how's that? And he said, well, if you read our code, we got a bunch of funny things. Like, it's legal to walk down the street with a cat on a leash. And he goes, one of them in the code book is Marysville, Washington. It's illegal to push a bed down the street. And so this was their little funny thing every year. They would have a bed race to push a bed down the street in violation of the code, right? And so when there's silly things or things that are gonna, not burden the house down, I'd rather not go. And if we're gonna do codes, I would love to get a citizen committee together, spend the time, and it takes time, and just go through and say, when the code says you can't manufacture dynamite, well, no one's doing it anymore anyway, so we can take that out. We can, just start scrubbing the code. But we've got, we've got road issues and transportation, and we're trying to reorganize the city, and compliance and budget, and budget reductions, and all these things that we're really trying to get our energy around. I like to say no to things only when those are more important than yes, to say yes to. And I think we're really in this mode, it's my opinion, and I said this yesterday at the meeting, it's like we have an opportunity to choose our preferred future. And I'd like to capitalize on a little bit of inertia and momentum and goodwill that we're having, and really prioritize with council and with the community. What are our biggest priorities? What are the things that we really always talk about getting done? And for whatever reason, we never seem to get quite across the finish line. Let's try to get them across the finish line, and then, start going down that list. So you may change
Little
my
bit of
mind
Palm
for me,
Bay,
but-
little bit of Palm Bay history to add to your story. Back in the early days after the city was formed in the 60s, there was an annual event called Palm Bay Days,
Okay.
and there were bed races.
Was it really?
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
I have pictures, I'll send them to you.
That's awesome. I thought I was the only one who's ever done a bed, I thought they were gonna look at me and say, bed race, what are you talking about? So yeah, those are the funny things. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, you'll be next. I brushed over you twice.
Okay, that's okay.
You're the next person. Go on.
I live in Bayside
Yes.
Lakes, and as you know, there's an offer evidently on the property.
Yes, we
Yeah.
just got plans in on Thursday late, and we just started sending them out. They're available. You leave your email. There's a preliminary plan set of documents that show what they're gonna be proposing. Be happy to send that to anybody.
Okay, well, I happen to, the back 3 feet of my yard is the rough.
Okay,
It used to be
yes.
golf course rough. Then it's the cart path, and then there is all of this growth next to the pond that is a mess all the time. Last year, I came to the city and I showed them pictures. The weeds in the rough area were up to my chest. Now, I'm a farmer's daughter, so I'm out there every few days weeding and keeping it under control. But the current owner has done zilch. The cart path is getting cracks, and this was my husband's business. He was in the golf business. He said, Deanna, it's gonna cost thousands of dollars to make repairs to that. He said, we cannot allow this to continue going on unless this new developer, if he's given permission or the transaction goes through, to allow this to not be taken care of. And I don't know, I don't have a 30,000-foot view of everything that's going on, but we need to be kept informed so that we know how this is progressing.
Yes, so we just got the plans in, and that's gonna be made notice, but some people know, we've been trying to get them out there, let people know what's going on. I think one of the councilmen might do another meeting with residents, and my understanding, and I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. In terms of the backstory, there's been a lot of questions asked about the purple pipe, the irrigation, the maintenance, reclaimed water. And so we've had staff now for 2 or 3 weeks going through all of the history, trying to understand where it was, where it's been, where we're sort of going, what options and opportunities we have. I know, I just got an email late yesterday from our legal team, and they're digging into the, no pun intended, into the reclaimed water issue, and is there actually infrastructure out there? And then if there is, which there may not even be, what does that look like for the city, for you guys? What were all these expectations? What were the promises over the years? I know, from a maintenance standpoint, which I'm not making an excuse, just making a statement. Essentially, for lack of a better term of art, the city's been trespassed from the property, so we can't proactively go out anymore. And I know the residents have too. I think you're told not to go out there, right?
Yes,
Or
but-
whatever, I'm just saying.
We have motorbikes going up the cart path.
Right, but I'm saying we're not driving through it every day or checking, so it's been not the easiest relationship is all I was trying to get at. So I'm not saying nothing needs to get done, it's not an excuse for things not to get done. So the best thing I have right now is we have the process sort of failed about 8 or 9 months ago, right? There was the meeting, this is my understanding, and someone here can correct me when I'm trying to get up to speed quickly. There was a public meeting that was supposed to be held with the P&Z at Bayside Lakes. And everyone shows up, is my understanding, and the applicant doesn't show up, right? So it's been on hiatus for a little over 8 months. Staff has strongly suggested that they sort of re-engage the process instead of just picking up where they left off by having another community meeting. So there's been several communications back to the property owner and the property owner's representative, the engineering firm. I'm not entirely sure. I think I know who the project proponent is. I've heard rumors, they're just rumors. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard it's a major home builder in the state of Florida that has a letter of intent on the property. And so we've asked them to re-engage the community and talk to residents, talk to neighbors, to be very vocal about what they're looking to accomplish. From the city's perspective, from just the technical perspective, the planning department, we just look at it as a land application. And there's a whole broader context to this conversation, to your point, of all the residents' concerns and history, and where's it going, and what does it mean for us, and what are the impacts. And so that needs to be addressed, and council addresses a lot of those pieces. Should it even be rezoned? Like, is that even fit with community character, vision, comp plan, right? These are the bigger questions that have to get answered. But as of today, we've got staff going through, looking at all the details, trying to put together some history and where we're at, what we need to be doing, what we can do. And then, obviously, now that, as of Thursday, this application package has been submitted, their staff's gonna be making comments on what was delivered to us, which was, you know, a big drawing of all the lot sizes and all the different uses, and the little piece of, green or fairway they're gonna preserve. It's sort of showing what their intention is for the project.
That they're calling Eden.
Eden at Bayside Lakes.
Yes, and you know what my husband calls our backyard? A half a step from Hades. If you live there and you put up with the snakes and everything that's coming out, it's not even funny.
Look, they're huge mice.
Yeah, the weeds, the rodents, the motorbikers.
I've never had that.
The lack of maintenance. And I've heard lots of, we're really trying to get our head around what we can do and where we're at now. Forget the process of this application.
Yeah.
We started a few weeks back when we heard, hey, what can we do? We're getting emails, can you do this? Can you look at this? We were trying to figure out what exactly it is we can we do.
We've only been here a couple of years. The traffic in the past 2 years has picked up significantly. Trying to pull into my subdivision, we
Wait till the
use the
snowbird show up.
Stonebriar. The bus was there, the school bus, which is fine. And so traffic was backed up behind it while all of the kids were exiting. So my husband said, oh, there's a lot of cars behind that. I started counting, not with the first car, but as they kept coming through, because I couldn't turn in. I counted 41 cars, and I didn't even start at the very beginning. So traffic is going to be an issue if there's a lot more housing development that goes in there.
Absolutely. Mr. Stice?
I have three things real quick. Sorry I'm late. It took me 17 minutes to go from my house to get to Malabar Road, and you know where I live. What we can do, the low hanging fruit, you gotta time the lights up there because the turn signal only goes for about 5 seconds. And you add a couple of school buses and it's insane. So I know we're working on lights, but that's one thing to look at right there. Secondly, you and I talked a few weeks ago about that sewer plate right outside Home Depot where it was sunk, it was depressed. Well, I don't know who you got doing this, but they finished the job and it's still just as bad as before. It sinks down about 4 or 5 inches. So they already worked on that and hopefully you get a little rebate or get these guys back there to do it properly. Finally, there's people in this room that have been fighting with the golf course and making presentations. I know John has been there. We've got 350 people in Bayside High School, and every one of us took part or made a statement of the value and the negativity that this is going to bring. To include basically, healthcare, trying to get a healthcare appointment. One of my residents said, what are we going to do about Publix? It's like Thanksgiving every day. We went through this. Now, what I want you guys to be looking at, and we were fighting this hard. Another thing too, two items. One, I have a neighbor who, right behind our property is a golf course perpetrator that's just taking over the world. So we gotta get code compliance in there, and a lot of times, I don't seem to get much done with code compliance unless I escalate this. And I have one of the deputy mayors call it and say, she being Heather Joyner needs to get out there and do that. So that was something I would ask right now. Down in my neighborhood, people are mowing 15 feet next to their property because they're tired of that, and lions and tigers and bears and everything else that's getting there. Finally, I looked at the rough draft of Eden, okay? What they're trying to do now too, these guys aren't stupid, is giving the city 25 to 30 acres, whatever that number is, of commercial, trying to sweeten the pie. But one of the reasons why it was rejected unanimously is because the houses that they put in there, first of all, too close in proximity.
Can I clarify something? Because you keep saying rejected, and I really want to understand the process. My understanding is they never even got to a decision point because they never showed up.
No, I'm talking about 3 years ago when it went to council.
Very first time, okay. Thanks. That's what I'm
So
trying to.
nothing's really changed here. And what it is, what Kenny Johnson talked a lot about, is compatibility. I got houses in my neighborhood going for $800,000, and when you put something real close to another house at 1,600 square feet, it's just not compatible. And the list goes on and on and taken on. So I would ask, as you, look at these things, don't take the bait, here's 25 acres, it's gonna be great, but you know what? When you put, I know there's 25,000 houses that have been approved, all the way by, St. John's Heritage Parkway. And I'm the one who talks about 2 cars per house and traffic and everything else. Public transportation is not existent, but please don't get taken by, we're gonna give you 25 acres to do what you want for commercial.
So I don't know about 25,000 houses first off, but.
Well, that's, sir, that's, confirmed by Lisa Frazier.
So what we're trying to do internally is reframe the conversation around development and start asking, like we've got a meeting coming up here in about 2 weeks, to start asking the development community and telling them what I think we need as a community to move forward. Instead of just, oh, this is what we're gonna give you, no, where it is, and I'll give you an example. I had a conversation with a developer who's looking to start a project, and it's like, oh, well, we need land for a fire station. He's like, well, I'll sell it to you, and then I'll build it to you, and I'll lease it back, and I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. You need to go find a piece of ground and buy it, you need to go build this fire station, and you need to dedicate it to the city. The taxpayers try to be on the hook for these extra costs, roads, like now there's certain things we can require, there's certain things we can ask for, and we can ask for anything. And we can't always enforce asking for everything. It's called concomitant agreement is one of the terms they use. But I think from a staff perspective, we wanna broaden that conversation on development and say, this is what we think the community wants. The community doesn't have to approve your plans or your project, but these are the needs we're having, whether it's water, whether it's sewer, whether it's traffic, fire, police, all these things. So to your point, I don't see 25 acres as an enticement or an inducement of any kind. And I haven't spent a ton of time, looked at it last night for a half hour. Commercial, I don't know if that works there, to your point, so.
Well, I think the bottom line we were talking about, I'll end with this, if you put another 500 and something, 60 homes, I think, in, the former golf course, in the last proposal, they had houses, on, I think there's 7 or 8 preserves, and, they had houses on them, and they just freaking, they just did it right off the hip, but what we have here with the infrastructure and everything else, I think council knows that you're gonna absolutely crush, Bayside Lakes with all that development there, and the traffic and everything that goes along with that. And so what we're gonna be pushing on, and, I met with 15 other, HOAs last night, we have a different, thing going on. What we're gonna be pushing on is that we keep the zoning at 1 house per 5 acres. And, we're gonna, if we need to put another 300 people, in, for a zoning meeting at Bayside High School, we really don't wanna go there, but I appreciate you looking at that out of the box and seeing what really should be in there right now. So if you can keep us informed in that, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I was talking with staff late last night about maybe setting up our website's a little difficult sometimes to find things, because people always say, launch from the website, so we have, and now it's hard to find anything, because there's too much, again, when everything's important, nothing is, so. So, kind of like we do with Turkey Creek or something, or put a special banner, but we're trying to figure out how we can just make it a little easier for people to go on one place, to see, all the updates and what's happening, just another layer to get information out there, and, because I was surprised, I didn't know, I was out Thursday, of course, but I didn't know the plans had come in, and I was like, they came in, and nobody called me, like, well, we need to know these things right away, so. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm very much into wetlands and preserving
Yes.
wetlands. And I know that statute 373 kind of governs what builders and developers can do with banking,
Yes.
wetlands
Mitigation
mitigation.
banking, yes.
However, I have a packet to give to Mr. De Lorenzo, because he's going to be reviewing the comprehensive plan and the land use.
The LDC is what we're currently doing, Land
Right.
Development Code, yes.
And, I've done a lot of research on it, and, I sent a letter in May to, Lisa, Frazier, but I have the backup to everything I say. The courts hold that cities and counties, if they put in stricter regulations on their wetlands and wetland areas, buffers, etc., those stricter rules and regulations hold against the state. So I'm saying, when you're looking at your land use, to protect Palm Bay and its wetlands and overdevelopment, because they go in and they destroy wetlands. And then they give those credits, those banking credits, somewhere else to another part of the state.
No, they have to stay in the same basin.
Not unless it's,
So
no.
technically, you're the wetland mitigation banking, you have to have the bank credits in the same basin, because the idea is, I'm not saying it's right, but there needs to be a nexus of effect, so the credits do stay in the basin.
That's, well, that's not exactly what it says, but if you have it in our charter or in our land use, if it specifically says that it stays within our own watershed, then yes, but we can create our own buffer around the wetlands. Anyway, it's a whole packet.
Yeah, share that with Jason, we'll
And
look
it,
into it.
I even did a mock ordinance, but, anyway, I do wanna leave this with you.
It's a- sure.
And also, going back to the county, Senate Bill 180 is taking away the home rule for counties with the development. And Anthony Sabatini is leading, his county commission into joining, a class action lawsuit against the state. There's already 4 or 5 different counties joining this. So the tend is for the state to override everything development, everything home rule. So we have got to take a stand and start protecting our own home rule. So, that has a lot to do with the wetlands, because wetlands, I did a long presentation at a council meeting months ago, but to protect the wetlands, that takes care of a lot of the flooding, a lot of the pollution, the wildlife, and Sunterra that's coming down by the parkway, the 2,500 homes that I think Mr. Stice, mentioned. They have 101 acres of wetlands that they are going to destroy. And, so where did the wildlife go?
That's right.
So, it's very, very important.
What county is Santee?
Pardon?
What county is?
Brevard.
Sabatini?
Sabatini.
Lake.
No,
Uh,
not a commissioner.
I think
Lake.
Is it Lake County?
Yeah.
I have a sheet on the back of that packet with a copy of his Facebook.
Great.
But it's very important. We have to take a stand now and protect our wetlands, protect our home rule any way we can. So, oh, here it is. I'm sorry, it wasn't on the back, but I got it. It's, Lake County Commission. So, please, when you're reviewing that land use, whatever you can do to shore up our home rule, because it's gonna be taken away from us. So,
And that's a great point, and that's a big conversation, because to your point, we're supposed to be charter home rule
right,
state. It does feel like we're being told all the time what we can and can't do anymore.
right. So we have to protect ourselves from the big boys.
But a gentleman all the way in the back. Yeah, to follow up on what you just said, what are the plans to put a pause on development?
Put a pause?
Absolutely.
So
Your
we're trying to
inventory has
reframe,
doubled
yeah,
and-
we're trying to reframe the conversation around development. There's not a plan yet for a pause, or a moratorium is the word people throw around. From a staff level, we're looking at how we reframe our expectations and what the community needs are. Back to your point, between Bert Harris and the Bert Harris Act and the stance the state has taken on development, which is very clear for everybody to see, the state is very pro-development. and they just changed the way plats and replats go, they don't come back to the local authority anymore, for final plats and plat amendments, I think is what it is. And we're seeing some other changes in how we can administer land use, you know, they just did a bunch of sweeping changes to the building code to make things easier. They did the private provider, is that 3 or 4 years ago, that if you don't like the city, you can go hire your own consultant to inspect your own properties in your own house, you don't have to have the stuff the city involved anymore. And so, you know, we're wrestling with where, you know, the concerns we hear from the community, how we address it, what tools, what avenues we have to most effectively address to reduce growth, the cost of growth, the challenges of growth. And that's really the heavy lifting we're currently engaged in.
Who approved those permits?
Which permits?
The permits for the builders. They do.
It's either the city or a private provider, a private company or the
I
city.
mean, for this county specifically, who's approving the bills?
The city or a private company.
Okay, and who's in charge of them?
The private company's in charge of themselves.
No,
The
okay.
city's in charge of the building department.
Right, but the city's allowing these bills, correct? For example, I'm a homeowner, I
Right.
had to go to the city to get a accessory structure on my own land, correct?
And if you meet the
Right.
code, we don't say no, just like we didn't say no to you to build your house or your accessory structure. If it meets the code, we say yes. That's the burden of the law.
Right.
Is, I don't know, we don't, at this, you know, we don't get a chance to say, well, we don't like what you're doing, or we're really busy, or again, sans something like a moratorium.
I don't
People still
think it's
have
a matter
property
of
rights.
busy, I think it's bringing up her point that we're already at an instance of 2008 repeat. And I think you and I can see that our inventory has skyrocketed and our prices are dropping dramatically. And if we keep building, it's gonna keep happening, and it's gonna happen again. And it's like, well, let's just smack a Band-Aid on the same thing that we've seen historically. So when do we put a pause on that?
It's
and
a tough,
listen to
that's a
the people?
tough question, it's a tough
Right.
balance, because the market, free hand of the market is America is supposed to work.
Right.
And if you put a moratorium out, the first thing you're gonna do, and I'm not making an argument against you or trying to say is why we're not doing it, you're gonna put 30,000 people out of work, guaranteed.
That's
You've got
fine.
builders, contractors, real
Okay.
estate agents, people whose livelihoods that live in this community depend on the building
There are other
trades.
jobs.
Well, these are the things you have to weigh, and we have to look at.
So we're just gonna keep on building empty homes. There's vacant homes now.
Always is, yeah.
Right, and but it's not just always, it's skyrocketed. That's the point.
Real estate does that in trends, but again, we
But
have to
that's
balance.
because we repeat
we
the
have to-
same damages that we keep causing.
We have to balance the market and people's private property rights.
But who
with-
does that?
With what we can require.
But I believe the city runs that, and I think that if you guys
To a
took
point,
charge.
to a point.
I feel like you're beating around the bush, but the reality is that the city's in charge of that. And if you guys had a better structure, I think it would have more control over what can be developed or not. There's, I don't know, a site that was mentioned that they're looking at building how many units? And
I'm not
is
familiar
it
with what-
needed?
I'm not familiar with what we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have to keep repeating what everybody else is saying. I'm just following the same conversation. Local development, correct?
Local development,
What's happening locally,
right?
right? And their conflict is that we're getting too much of a mass development, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Yes, the conversation is that it's happening too fast, too
Right.
much, without the right infrastructure.
Yeah, cause I mean, we could go into semantics and that to me is just jargon. But to
Well,
simplify
there's no-
for
there's-
everybody else to
yeah.
understand.
There's no
is that
semantics.
You guys are in charge, but you are allowing builders
To a point. Let's be honest, the private property rights, people have in the state of Florida.
If that's the case, then I
it is
should have been
well
able to
vested-
build how I wanted to build on my land.
It's very well vested private property rights, and I'm just saying, that's the real balance. It's easy to say, stop everything or do this, but there's real questions we're trying to.
Alright, so then
wrestle
there
with.
goes a deeper question. What happened to that man cave that this guy had? A permit passed, but it was pulled because the lady said, hey, I don't like the way it looks.
That
Right.
wasn't here.
But the city pulled it. And you guys don't have the right to pull things?
That
Is
wasn't
it
here.
stop builds?
If you're not in compliance, again, if you stay in compliance. you
He
can
was in
build what you want.
compliant in the past.
Okay.
And he sued the city and he won. And now he's suing the actual person. So we taxpayers had to pay his pocket over $1 million, I believe.
And if we put a moratorium on tomorrow, that's what'll happen too. We'll get sued by 50
Right.
50 developers. So getting back to the point of it, that we
Well,
gotta
why
balance
would
the
they
rights.
sue, why would they sue the city?
Because they're gonna lose lots of money. Put people out of work.
Interesting. And who would have to pay that? But do you think that those will win?
I don't know.
Okay. I
You're
think
asking
that's a
rhetorical
risk that we can
questions that I-
take.
you're
I
asking
think
some
these are
rhetorical
questions that need to be
questions that I can't
asked.
answer.
That's what we're here for. I think I'm seeing something that everybody else is seeing. These people have been here much longer.
Yeah.
I came from the Northeast because of what's happening. And now I'm seeing it being repeated here. And these people have a place and a home. There's a lot of farms that are being taken. Let's start with that.
Tom?
Just an observation. Well, first of all, you said, I can't remember if I read it or you said it in one of the meetings or something, you're reviewing the social media policies for the city.
Yes.
And one of the biggest issues the city has, in my opinion, is communication. You have accounts on X that haven't been used in years. They're not afraid to pick up and do the reverse 911 calls for things, but nothing ever gets put out on X or any of the social media sites for that. But one of the biggest things, and I think you've been here a little bit and maybe have a sense of this, so one of the city's longest problems is the attitude of us versus them when it comes to staff and the citizens. And we elect city council, and city council has to fill that buffer in between the two. But I think you're making a lot of progress in addressing that. But that's been a long-standing problem, is that us versus them attitude that I feel. I don't know about anybody else, but that's just my opinion.
I think you're spot on. I see it everywhere, and there's this notion that the city is some shadowy figure that exists, you know, in our nightmares at night, when the city is supposed to be this. It's supposed to be community. You have staff, you have citizens, you have elected officials, and we're all supposed to be more or less on the same team and working towards the same big ends and goals, and I agree. So where do those bits come together, and how do we all do a better job?
I think I can trace some of that back to the 2008 crash. A lot of staff were furloughed, and they volunteered for that, but that's kind of always been the underlying current that maybe plays a part in that.
Yeah. More esoteric, I think it's a higher conversation too, because I've been doing this for going on 30 years, and we used to sit back 25 years ago and go, wow, the federal government's really dysfunctional, I'm glad local government does so well. And then about 15 years ago, we saw the dysfunction migrate down to the state level. Wow, it's at the state level. Wow, I'm glad it's them. And wait a minute, it's moving this direction. And I don't know if it's the example we see at the federal level, or it just seems to be not what I remember. Yeah, it's this conversational, right? The dialogue instead of demands, and all these things you're talking about. So back to the point of your question, we do have a reevaluation of all of our social media, trying to figure out how we can, because it doesn't matter where you are. There's a great book written by a guy named Ron Hubbard, not L. Ron Hubbard, not that guy, but a guy named Ron Hubbard. I think it was like 1910 or maybe it was 1895, somewhere in that time frame. It was called Message to Garcia. And the whole point of this, it's a great treatise, and the whole point of this short story is no matter how much you communicate, it's never enough. And the moral is keep trying harder, keep trying to communicate. You gotta get the message across the finish line. And no matter what company I've ever worked for, Citizen, that's always the number one issue. Communication, there's never enough communication. And so, just to try to figure out what we're doing, we are bringing in some help, and we're reevaluating, to your point, all the social media, the web presence, like how can we be more effective? What does that look like? Is it even possible to be more consistent, prioritize, and really engage people?
Just a suggestion, when you talk about the website, move the economic development off on its own site, so that when you have a company or somebody interested in the city, they don't have to delve through all the other ordinances and, you know, all the other stuff. Make it a separate site for economic development that just sells the city.
Hi, good morning. To what he was saying with the economic development having a separate tab, I wanted to just say thanks. I think it was 2 weeks ago, there was the second annual vendor fair, reverse vendor fair at the Tony Rosa. I was able to attend. That was a really awesome opportunity to meet with those people, the procurement departments that manage how to do business with the city. They put on a really great event. We met a lot of people. I think I missed you. I don't know if you showed up after I left, but I met your assistant. It was a great event, and it really did help. I still had a couple questions. I'll be visiting the procurement department today. But I really enjoy these meetings because I also have a vested interest in some land I think we talked about last time. And just knowing what obstacles I'll be against with that development of a large housing community, even though it's a much needed one and won't bring a lot of traffic, it's nice to see how well it might be received.
Yeah, we're struggling with development issues, but back to the vendor fair, I'm glad you went, and one of the ideas is to engage local businesses and make the government procurement side more accessible to everyone who are doing business in our community, right? So that's a good
Having
one.
that tab, doing business with the
Yep,
city
yep.
it was very
Perfect,
helpful.
yeah, keep our business local and try to keep our dollars local. Yeah. Good morning.
My name is Adam Hester, and I've recently moved to Palm Bay. I live in the timber, and it's the back end of what everyone else is talking about. We're there, and I know that they established the Everland CBD for it, but I can't find what is done on what they promised you for the water and engineering. I can't find the last step. It's important because our neighbors are told things like, well, the CPD owns your pool, your amenity center, and it's just not true, I know that. I just don't know what is true. So who do you need to talk to about the actual acceptance and the start of the Everland CBD?
We can get some more information from you before you leave and see if we can try to track down, who we can get you in touch with for that
Because they built you some water, facilities, I just don't know where.
Yeah, I don't know either, but we can see if we
I
can.
don't know if they're complete, I don't know if we own them, you own them.
We'll see, we can see if we can point you in the right direction. If it's a CBD, chances are but we'll take a look and we'll try to help you out. Yes, sir, yeah.
Yes, I am Javier Molinares. I've been living in Palm Bay since 1995. I went to the U.S. Army and I came back to Palm Bay to work here. And I'm also the president of the Breval Hispanic Center, which is an organization that helps individuals and families in areas of education, health, family issues. And also the president of the Breval Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. My question is that what is the city doing to incentivize local businesses here in Palm Bay? I think one of the main problems here is that we don't have enough employment opportunities for citizens in Palm Bay. And if you can see, everybody works outside. And that causes a huge traffic every morning. And so what are your incentives to promote local businesses to open here in Palm Bay and help people to stay here, to work here in Palm Bay instead of going everywhere to work?
Great point, and back to the code script question, I think Tom left, but priorities. So part of that was the vendor fair. First step is making sure people who are here locally can do business with the city, because we're a source to do business with, and we want to promote business in the community. Second of all is we brought in the new economic development director just a few months ago. He's got great experience. Him and I worked on the Palm Coast University of North Florida, Daytona State. We had JU, Advent Health, Johnson & Johnson, Lake Nona, for that MedNexus. That was our medical technology, medical informatics, medical careers. How do we start creating pathways to economy and community for an industry that exists? Here it seems to be centered around technology space, manufacturing, aerospace at a high level, great job creators, like an L3 Harris, right? Like if you've been out to Vertex, what they're doing there with the business incubation. So we're supporting that business incubation. We're actually a partner in that project here in town. We're looking at how do we continue to grow economic development in terms of marketing the city. To Mr. Gom's point, we've got some economic development analysis happening. What are our assets? How do we market assets? What are businesses looking for? We've got communications going on at the state, local level in terms of that. I was just in Washington DC about 2 months ago, and we met with 8 different legislators, all the way up from the reps and Vern Buchanan, who's chair of the Ways and Means Committee, down to our local folks, Ashley Moody's office, Scott's office, Congressman Herodopoulos' office, others around the Capitol Hill, in terms of how can we incentivize, what tools can we bring now to Palm Bay, whether it's opportunity zones, innovation districts, industrial district zones, like what toolkit can the state, the federal government help us help ourselves grow economy, provide opportunity to transition to what the mayor says, the exuberant tax base, right? Get the residential burden, focus more on commercial growth, on the jobs, on the things that now help build, truly build a community, because the community can't just be housing. And so there's 5 or 6 strategies moving forward. The Space for Space strategy, which is in the compound, we have a really great guide that we put together quickly to take up as a legislative leave behind up to Washington DC. And so we've got 5 or 6 different strategies that we're trying to align. That's the bigger piece, right? One strategy is great, but we want the strategies working together, and we want them working up and down the county. And so we've got a new, more aggressive role in the EDC, the Economic Development Commission, run by Linda Weatherman and that group. And we're really trying to dig in and say, okay, again, it goes back to what are the priorities, what are the best strategies to effectuate the change, what is our end goal, and how do we get there? So it's early, it's only been going on for, 6, I've only been here 3 months, but it's only been going on for, 6 or 7 weeks. But we're really trying to tactically address from a technical perspective. And once we start to get that boat built, we'll engage the community more and say, okay, how are these things working? How do they serve you? What are the other needs that we have? And so,
And I would like to
kind of a high level.
I would like to be part of that. As you know, I had the bilingual newspaper Al Día Today for 20 years here in Palm Bay. And I would like to be able to communicate to the people. We have a lot of people coming from South, from Miami, from New York, from other places. And when they come, they usually call me and they say, I am moving to Palm Bay, I'm gonna buy a house over there, sell my house here, and buy a brand new house over there. I say, do you have a job already? Oh, I'm gonna find a job, I can find a job. Well, we need to be careful because we don't have much employment opportunities here in Palm Bay, so that's something that you need to think about it before coming here. So anything I can do to help, we have the Brevard Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and we want people moving from other places. We wanna guide them, because we don't want them to come here and then they have to work in Orlando and other places. We wanna guide them, and I really would like to be part as the president of the Brevard Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, see how we can work together to help those people moving to Palm Bay.
Appreciate that, thank you. Before I got time for 1 or 2 more, yes, sir, good morning.
Looking from the top, seems like to me that with all the traffics and growth that we're getting, one of the things that is not getting enough attention and really should be a priority is solving the issue of the Beltway, the missing part of it. And the original purpose of that was in case of a natural disaster like a bad hurricane, if you have to evacuate Palm Bay. And that situation is really coming to a head with the growth and all the traffic that we have. And it seems like that not getting enough attention over there to getting this missing piece put together and alleviate a lot of the pressure that we get into the traffic to the eastern portion of Palm Bay. That way they can get out that way and redistribute the traffic that we got. And I don't see any progress. I don't think that that's gonna happen in my lifetime, seems like. I don't know if we need federal money or what other vehicle, that's probably more your expertise.
We're looking into that actually, because I agree with you. I think it's probably, from my perspective, one of the most important projects we should be working on, because it serves many critical needs. And on top of that, we should treat it as a parkway and not put 1,000 driveway cuts in. It should be a parkway, not a city street. So part of it is we need to finalize and identify the entire route and any alternatives. I've seen several variations. I don't know that we've ever landed on what is the actual route for the St. John's Heritage Parkway connecting from end to end. That needs to happen, and a solid alternative or two is my understanding. And then there's a lot of right-of-way that has to get purchased. So you've got a map, I've seen several maps. There's all kinds of iterations. So saying, yes, this is the version, Mr. Batten, or that, whatever, this is where we want it to go, I think is critical, because we need to know what we're going after if we're going to go after it. And to your point, then it's just gonna be funding, correct, right-of-way acquisition, whether it's purchasing or condemning, I don't know all the different routes, but I do think it's an essential piece for the health of the city to get that done.
Where is the bottleneck? Why is it that they cannot determine which is the best route? I mean, that should be not too difficult to determine. It's been stalled over there for how many years?
Long time, my understanding, yes. Yeah, and when I met with some folks 6 weeks ago and said, hey, we really wanna talk about this right away because we're trying to build end to end, and they challenged me, so we didn't even know where you wanted to go yet. So I started looking at the maps, and there are, again, I don't know where, fact and fiction lie, but several iterations, and I think the community and the council need to put their finger on, this is Route A, and here's some alternatives, if we can't get right away for some reason, where are we going with this thing, and how do we get it going faster?
Who is in charge of setting up this route, you know?
The St. John's? Their actual
Yeah,
final route? I mean,
Parkway, yeah.
you're gonna do some kind of preliminary design, and that preliminary design is a technical exercise, but I think where it keeps getting stuck is, where is the right of way? What's the mechanism to acquire? Because we can plan and just put our finger on a map. We also, to some extent, hopefully have willing property owners, because the city doesn't own that land, the state doesn't own all that land. And we're gonna have to figure out a way to either buy, or trade, or take that property, and that's where it gets sticky, because we need to figure out and have a big conversation, say, hey, this is where it needs to go, how do we now acquire that property?
Well, it
That's
seemed
one of
like,
the
you know,
big
there
challenges.
was a major right-of-way over there by the power company. And it seemed like that's one of the routes, and it seemed like that's the best one.
Several pieces do exist, and there's several pieces that need to be filled in.
And yeah, also the Kogan, the Wingham Road, you know, over there, you know, that's already the right-of-way. Between that and the power line, it seems like, you know, it's pretty much, that's your best route, anyway.
Maybe, yeah. And there is a big missing section from the very south interchange past,
Yep,
you know, coming back, there's a big chunk missing, so.
all that down there is still right of way concern.
I'll just leave it to say, because I think we have one more question before we go. It's a great point, it's a great point. Yes, sir.
I've got an issue on Madden Avenue. I think maybe code compliance needs to be a little more proactive.
Thank you. Well, thank you all again for coming and for the conversation, and I really appreciate your time, and I'm gonna chat with you. And I wanted to catch you really quick, and anyone else, obviously I'll be here for 15, 20 minutes to circle back, but thank you so much for making time to come and talk this morning, I really appreciate it.